everyone, welcome to BrickVault. My name is Jack and today we are reviewing a Star Wars set. This is Darth Vader's TIE Advanced vs. A-Wing Starfighter. So here are the logistics of the set. It is recommended for ages 9 to 14. It is set number 75150 and it has 702 pieces. Included are 4 minifigs. We've got Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, Sabine Wren, and an A-Wing pilot. So of course, going along with that, you can see the 2 vehicles on the back. We've got a pretty nice design for an A-Wing with green and yellow highlights, as well as the latest LEGO version of Darth Vader's TIE Advanced. Alright, so that's enough of that. Let's get the box open. So inside the box, we've got bags labeled up to the number 6, but there are actually 2 bag 6s, so that makes 7 bags altogether. Inside here is 2 small manuals and some stickers. Let's get started with the build. Alright, I just finished the build. I like a lot of stuff that's going on with both of these ships, but first let's talk about the 4 new minifigs. First up is the newest Darth Vader. He's got the new 2-piece helmet that came out in the final duel set last year, along with the same print for his head. What is new about him is the detailing for the body though. The belt looks different, the mechanical control panel printing is slightly different, and this time the printing for his robes are partially covering the armor on his shoulders. Let me just show him next to the second most recent Darth Vader. And I actually gotta say this new printing is a little simpler, and I don't actually think it looks quite as good, but maybe because this is a Rebel set, the printing is a little bit more simplified. Either way, I don't have too much of an opinion about it. Both of these prints still look pretty good, but I am happy that Darth now has a soft cloth cape. Alright, now moving on to Sabine Wren. She's got some new stuff going on, especially the printing for her hair. Before, the hairpiece was all blue with a little bit of orange highlights. Now this hairpiece is actually green with quite a bit of light blue and dark blue printing on top. Also, just the whole printing for her body and armor look a lot better, and I think her best addition is the new printing for the utility belt. By the way, neither of the prints for her expressions are any different from the last one, and we're moving on to Grand Moff Tarkin. This guy looks awesome, a great character to have for a Star Wars LEGO collection, and he's got some really nice prints for both the chest and both of his expressions. He's an individual that looks like he may have never cracked a smile in his whole life, but I think what really makes it for this fig is that use of the Widow's Peak hairpiece that I think was first made for Doctor Who. It's in dark gray now and it looks very good on this minifig. Our last fig here is the A-Wing pilot. She has both a new print for the torso piece on the front and back. This shows her flight suit and she's got new printing for a helmet. Always a fan of seeing what the new pilot helmets look like, and this one looks pretty good. And the expressions for this head match Torin Farr, that minifigure that came out in that Giant Hoth playset. But believe it or not, all 4 of these minifigs are new to this particular set, so that is pretty cool. But something tells me that with later Star Wars releases, probably a couple of these figures are not going to remain exclusive. Alright, now let's move on to what I've been waiting for. Let's get onto these ships, starting off with the A-Wing. And after comparing this ship with a couple other A-Wing builds that we have in the studio, I think I'm going to say this is my favorite LEGO A-Wing so far. Here is the A-Wing next to a custom build my brother did, but the original design of this custom build is credited to the builder Vassal, and I think he released pictures on this A-Wing first back in 2009. But anyways, when you compare the two next to each other, you can see that the scale is pretty close. The custom build is slightly longer, the body is a little bit thicker, and I'd say a lot of the edges of the custom build are just rounded over a bit smoother. All that being said, there's some nice similarities, and I don't know if this is a coincidence, but the build for some of those back thrusters right in the center are nearly identical to this 2009 custom version. It's actually almost exactly the same. That's kind of cool. But anyways, that's how this A-Wing looks compared to a hyper-realistic custom version. And this is it compared to a LEGO A-Wing also released in 2009 from the set Home 1 Mon Calamari Star Cruiser. And the differences between these two ships are strikingly similar to the differences between the last two. Our updated A-Wing is a little bit longer. The build for the nose is extremely similar, and if you want to see the difference, you gotta look on the underside. The underside of the nose is pushed forward quite a bit for this new version, and there's also just a bit more thickness. Now when you look further back on the underside of the ships, you can see the main difference between these two A-Wings. This here is probably one of the most well-hidden play functions I've seen on a set. The rubber band triangle in the center there keeps the midsection of this A-Wing completely in place, but let me flip the thing around and show you how the function works. When you hold the A-Wing by one of the sides and pull the cockpit back in the center, not one but two consecutive shots fire with that single pull. It's an awesome function, not only in just how fluid it works, but I for one am a huge fan of a play function if the designers kind of just managed to sneak it into the build. This is probably one of the most well-hidden play functions I've seen in LEGO, and because it doesn't detract at all from the design of the ship, that makes me like the overall design of this build even more. Okay, I think I've finally talked up the A-Wing enough. I'll just point out the last few features this ship has, and that is the weapons on the side are posable up and down. The two larger thrusters on the back are also highly posable if you like. And there's a very simple, decent build for 3 tiny legs as landing gear. Alright, now let's move on to the TIE Advanced, where I can actually do another ship comparison, which is pretty fun. Here it is next to the other Darth Vader's TIE Advanced ship that came out again in 2009. Set number 8017. Now this comparison is a little bit easier because I think the visual improvements between these two ships is a lot more striking. Looking at them from the top down, the 2009 version actually has longer wings and a bigger backside, but a much smaller cockpit. Taking a look at them just from the sides and examining the wings, the improvements are a little bit easier to see. The 2009 version has the light gray tile pieces that stick out a little bit too much, and they also just don't follow the entire perimeter of the wing, which kind of breaks up this gray to black plate look, and it just feels a little bit awkward. Having all the gray underline the black plates on the new wings certainly looks a lot better. I especially like how some of that gray gets a little bit thinner towards the corners. Now when you look at the front of the two ships side by side, this is where you can definitely see most of the improvements. The cockpit is just so much bigger on this new TIE Advanced, and the circular head of the cockpit feeds into the shape of the arms a lot more smoothly. It makes for a much more proportional build, it feels a lot more accurate, and also they just got the colors a lot better as well. Also I'd say it's worth noting that this TIE Advanced feels a little bit heavier, and certainly a lot more sturdy. Now let's look at the ship a little bit more individually. Both the printed windshield piece and printed top hatch piece open up to seat Darth Vader in the inside. And this TIE Fighter 2 has a pretty decent play feature. It's pretty well hidden on the top. Right behind those two red trans pieces you see some black, and those are actually some loose Technic pieces that when you press down on them they shoot the spring-loaded shooters on the bottom. The spring-loaded shots on the bottom aren't quite as well hidden as the A-Wing, but there's really not a whole lot of them showing, and it is on the underside of the ship anyways, so the good-looking parts of this ship can still be appreciated pretty well without being distracted by some very obvious play features. Alright, and I think we're pretty much there now, so let's take a look at this set all together. I think it is absolutely great that we get 4 new minifigs in the set, and as many of you know, new versions of LEGO ships are not always improved versions of LEGO ships. I would say that both Darth Vader's TIE Advanced and the A-Wing Starfighter are both welcomed improvements by me. And yes, even with all those stickers on the A-Wing, I still say it's a much better version. Both the play features work well for this set, especially the one for the A-Wing, so this really is a set I think kids will appreciate, as well as adults, considering these are 2 classic Star Wars ships that have both made some pretty good improvements. Alright, so I think that's it for this review. If you want to pick up the set, we will leave links in the video description below. If you enjoy our content, feel free to subscribe, and as always, thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you next time at BrickVault.